The first question I always get, we always get in terms of ethics is, whose ethics? In pondering that, we've really come up with a notion of pluralism as our approach to ethics. And pluralism implies a certain kind of universality, recognizing that there's something common amongst all people. And pluralism is an effort to have empathy for that universal human aspect of all people, but also great respect for the diversity of the human experience. And that the enterprise of ethics and international affairs is not to get everybody to share the same way of living or even the same values, but to have a deep understanding. And actually, the more I think about it, the more I realize that it's really about how we live with differences and at times celebrate differences.
This sounds a little bipolar, in the sense that we recognize diversity and yet we cherish universality.
Mm-hmm.
How do you apply that when one culture, for instance, believes in things we wouldn't believe in, maybe polygamy perhaps, mm-hmm. or mutilation or slavery?
The first step is to try to understand, why does it seem that it is right within a certain context, in a certain culture, in a certain society, that polygamy seems to be the right thing to do? Or honor killing, or female genital mutilation, or there are some standard cases that we talk about. And I would suggest, from our point of view, what we would do is we would first seek to understand, how is that a human experience? Where does that come from? And that is not to say to accept it. Just as, again, standard case, we wouldn't accept Nazi ideology or ways of living, but it's important to understand how it was that this way of thinking and this way of living arose. And that the fact that we can, and this is what I mean, it's empathy in a way, empathy in the idea of being understanding human experience. And I think it's important to understand that, and I actually believe that's the first step to making these distinctions that I am talking about. There will be certain things that we will say are unacceptable, are wrong, are worse, and that's part of the enterprise. So this is sort of one long exercise, I suppose, in self-discovery in a way, and it's to try to, you begin from an empathetic perspective, but at some point, yes, you will be making distinctions and drawing lines. And we may not always agree on where those lines are, and that's part of what we do here. We say, here's where we draw the line. Here's from a Judeo-Christian tradition, here's from an Islamic tradition, here's from a secular humanist tradition, and so on. But that's, and then we share, in the spirit of mutual learning, because at the end of the day, we're an educational institution. We share, here's where we draw the line, here's where our tradition tells us to draw the line, here's where my philosophical framework tells me to draw the line. What do you think?
And as you say, we have to examine our own assumptions. We can't just proceed with the idea that our beliefs are the right beliefs. We have to look inside before we start looking at other people's beliefs. That's a very profound point, because in doing the kind of work that we do, I think that's been the most profound experience for me personally, and I've seen around here for our staff and people who have been involved with this, is the heightened awareness of one's own commitments, because you're forced to confront them in a way as you look around at some of the tough cases that you were mentioning before.